So we're going to control access to users who log in. And to do that, we are going to modify learning logs views, and we are going to add login required. Okay, and that is coming from Django contrib auth decorators. And we are going to import login required. And basically, a decorator is a directive that you can insert above a function in a view, and it changes the behavior of the function. So if we add at login required, it will prevent users from going into a function if they have not logged in. And you're actually going to need to add that above every single function except for the index. The index is the home page. We want anyone to see that because there is a register link there and they'll be able to register and log in. So all of the other functions need to have at login required added to them. Now, what happens if they're not logged in and they try to access one of these functions or one of these templates? Then we want them routed to the login page. And where we specify that is up at the project level in the settings file. At the very bottom, you need to add my settings, login URL, users.login. And this is going to redirect them to our users app to the login page. Okay, so this is in settings for the entire project that you're adding that to. So after you modify views, our next step is going to be to connect data to the user. We can do this at the highest level, and the highest level for us is the topic level. Because all of the entries are connected to a topic. If we connect the topic to the user, all of the entries will automatically follow suit. So to make that connection, we do have to modify a model. And the model we need to modify is our topic model, because that's the level at which we are going to connect the user to the data. So let's go into learning logs and models. And to connect them, we have to pull in Django contrib authorization models. We're going to import user. So this is where all of the user data is. And kind of how Django works is when you submit a URL, either by clicking a link or by entering it in the address box, it sends an HTTP request object, which we have seen in our views, right? In our views, one of the arguments that we pull in is the request object. Okay, so it's sending a request object, and then once it processes the data, it sends a response object. And it's in the request object that information about users is stored. So we can actually access user information through that request object. And specifically, we can find out, what user is logged in. So for our topic here, we are creating an owner field or variable. This is a foreign key, and it is connected to user. So our user table, which is a class that Django has created. Okay, and if the user is deleted, the owner should be removed as well. Okay, so that's pretty much all we're adding here, a from statement and a foreign key. This is going to require performing migrations. And when you add a foreign key and you already have data, it's a bit of a problem because a foreign key cannot be null, has to have data in it. So we are going to get a little error when we run make migration. At that point, we will have the opportunity of assigning owner a valid value. So we can assign all of the topics to one of our users, just so that we can get this owner added to the table. So what we're going to do is assign all of the topics to the super user. So it is kind of a good idea to take a look at the users that you do have and verify the ID. Even though I'm fairly certain all of your super user accounts have an ID of 1. We will verify that. So we have to run the shell here. All right, when you get the chevron, first thing we can do is see all of the users if we want. So we're going to run this little database import statement, and then we'll run a command. Okay, so I got 2 users. Now, if I want to see the IDs, do a for in. And I can print. The name and the ID out. Okay, so I have 2 users and my super user is ID 1. So I can exit out of here. And then at this point, I can go ahead and make migrations. And what I expect to see is basically a little error message indicating that I have a non-nullable field owner without a default. So that's telling me that that field is not filled in, and that's a problem because it has to be filled in. So then I selected option 1 to set a default, and then I entered the number 1 to assign it to that user's ID. Okay, and once I do that, it'll go ahead and finish doing the migration, and there's no problem. So we're going to go ahead and try it. Let's make sure I keyed in everything correctly. That's what I thought. It's migrations with an S. See if I can scoot back over here. All right, Python manage.py, no period after that. Make migrations, learning logs, press enter. All right, so now it's giving me the message that I have the one-off error. I do want to resolve it, so I'm going to press A1. Okay, now it wants to know what user I'm going to assign this to, and I'm going to assign it to user 1. And you can see that it went ahead and made my migration file. So now that I have my migration file, I can go ahead and run the migrate command. Okay, and that worked. Now, if you want to go back into the shell, you can verify that your different topics have been assigned to the super user, which should be you. Okay, so importing the topic. I'm going to print out the topic and the topic.owner. And you can see that they've all been assigned to me. So that worked.